2010 were made out of a concern for my country, her citizens, and the wider world that we live in. Since the events of September 11th, 2001, the U.S. has been involved in a war with an enemy that chose and chooses not to use a traditional battle space. Due to this fact, we altered our methods for combating risks posed to us in America and our way of life. For a long time, I agreed with these methods. I chose to volunteer and help defend our country. However, it was not until I arrived in Iraq and was finally connecting the dots between the contents of often classified military and diplomatic documents that I worked with on a daily basis and real flesh and blood, that I realized that in our efforts to meet the risks posed to us by our enemies, we had completely forgotten about our humanity. We consciously and repeatedly elected to devalue human life, both in Iraq and Afghanistan and now elsewhere. When we engaged those that we perceived as an enemy, we often killed innocent civilians. And whenever we killed innocent civilians, we chose not to accept responsibilities for these failures, but instead hid behind a complex and growing veil of national security and classification, all in order to avoid public accountability. In our zeal to kill the enemy, we internally debated the definition of torture. We held individuals in Guantanamo Bay for years without due process of law. We inexplicably turned a blind eye to torture and executions by our host nation partners in Iraq and Afghanistan, and we stomached countless other recorded and documented acts in the name of our war on terror. All too often, patriotism is a cry extolled when morally and ethically questionable acts are advocated by those in power. When these cries of patriotism drown out any logically based intentions, it is usually the eager and dedicated American soldier on the ground that is given orders to carry out these ill-conceived missions. As the late Howard Zinn once said, there is not a flag large enough to cover the shame of killing innocent people. I understand that my actions violated the law, but I acted only out of the desire to help people. When I chose to disclose classified information to the public, I did so out of a love for my country, her citizens, and a sense of duty to others. I will serve my time knowing that sometimes you have to pay a high price to live in a free society, and I will gladly pay that price if it means that we could have a country that is truly conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all women and men are created equal.